Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode with me, Teacher Yuvan. And today we're going to talk about something super important. We're going to talk about helping your label child succeed in life. Now, generally in my classes, I like to do this. So before we begin our episode today, I want you to take a moment to imagine this. So close your eyes wherever you are. Hopefully, please don't close your eyes if you're driving. So if you are seated at home, please take a moment to do this together. Yeah, let's do this together. So I want you to imagine for just this 1 minute that you're a teacher. So imagine you're preparing to enter a class. You're in a classroom, whether it's online, physical, doesn't matter. You're going to meet your students. Now, imagine when you're walking into the classroom, every child's forehead has a label, right? The child doesn't know, but you can see it. One says stupid, another one says lazy, another one says, oh, tukang kacau dalam kelas, very destructive. Another one says gifted, super smart, shy. You can see these labels on these kids' forehead. So I hope you can see in the traditional classroom or even in an online classroom, you can see this on their forehead. Now, I want you to imagine, now being a teacher, if you see a kid's forehead written stupid or slow learner, what is your reaction or what's your feeling towards that child? And in comparison with another child that's written genius or gifted or super smart, what is your reaction towards that child? Take a moment, just imagine yourself in that position and see what is your feeling towards that child. Do you feel like, oh, the gifted child, you should help more, or you should give more challenging questions? Or do you feel like, oh, the gifted child, I don't have to help, I should help the child that's labeled stupid, right? Whatever your feelings are, I want you to be aware of them. Whatever plan that you think of when you see that label, keep it to yourself. Now, I want you to see your child seated in that classroom. What label do you think your child will have? Because whether we like it or not, most teachers do this either consciously or unconsciously. They label our children in classrooms, right? So just when you started, you had some thought, right? The moment you saw that label, oh, genius or super smart or shy, you already have a preconceived notion about that child, even though this was just a imaginative exercise. Now you can open your eyes now. You can open your eyes. So imagine for a teacher who's continuously teaching every single day, these labels are a shortcut, right? So if they label your children, can you imagine what is their treatment towards that child? When we see that label, we want to understand, does that label build up that particular child or does it break them down? This is what we want to talk about today. So welcome to our discussion today, where we challenge the need to label children in schools, first of all. Now, why are we even having this discussion? This is an important point to consider, right? So when parents call us for a strategy call, or even when they email us in, they're asking me for opinions, so they want to discuss about things. This is a very, very common term that I read in my emails or I see in the incoming requests when they want to enroll, right? They say that, oh, my child is actually a slow learner. I want to know how you can help my child, or my child is a slow learner. Do you accept slow learners? The slow learner is more common than, of course, let's say stupid or dumb, or my child cannot learn, or my child is uninterested in learning. This slow learner, I noticed it's very, very common. So I'm usually very curious, right? So what we do is we call these parents up, and when we speak to them, we say, okay, you mentioned that your child is a slow learner, right? And so I usually ask them, why do you say that? And generally, this term slow learner is never ever originating from the parent. Dia tak pernah macam, kita tak lah anak sendiri kita cakap, oh dia ni lembab lah sebenarnya. Jarang. I bukan kata tak ada parents macam tu, memang ada, But jarang sangat-sangat our own parents cakap, oh dia memang lembab lah, dia memang slow. Tak ada. Alright? So, when we probe further, right, generally what parents end up saying is, oh, the school teachers have said that, I've switched schools, all the teachers say the same thing. So, normal, this is a conversation. So, even if you end up emailing me or calling me, this is what anyone at Past Excel will ask you, or even I will ask you. So, my general question will be, oh, really? Oh, that's very interesting. So, dia main game macam mana? Dia slow tangkap ke atau dia tangkap cepat gila? Kalau puan ajar dia masak dekat rumah, dia cepat tangkap ke slow? So, let's say lah, you ask them a variety of activities and the parents generally tak payah pergi jauh-jauh. You tanya dia main game macam mana, terus the parents jawapan, oh, main game dia pandai, dia boleh main berjam-jam, dia memang cepat. Like, you know, dia fight dengan abang dia ke, break another level ke apa semua. So then I ask the parent lah. So if you say the person is a slow learner, right, that means they must be slow at everything. They must be slow at learning how to build websites, or they must be slow at learning how to code. They must be slow at learning how to cook, how to clean, how to arrange dishes. But if you tell me they are not slow in anything else, the only thing they are slow at is academic subjects. So ni tak slow learner lah. Ya. Ni maksudnya orang yang tengah ajar dia dekat sekolah tu didn't find a right way on how to teach the child. So I have so many experiences and stories to share, which we will look into detail in today's episode. Right? So most importantly, when we do this call, like I was telling you, I always ask this question, or even some of my staff will always ask this question, right? If you are talking to any of my teachers, they'll ask you this question: was this diagnosis given to you by a doctor? Was it a clinical psychologist that gave you this diagnosis that he's a slow learner? Tak. Memang tak. Dekat Malaysia, most parents don't go to that level. They never go to get an official diagnosis done. They just believe what the teachers say. So here is my humble request. If your child has been labeled a slow learner or a variety of labels that teachers like to use at school, please take it with a pinch of salt. That's how I want to start today's episode. Please take it with a pinch of salt. Okay? Kita timbang tara lah. Tengok kenapa cikgu cakap macam tu. Okay, being a teacher myself, I know this because I've sat in countless bilik guru meeting. Dekat bilik guru tu rasa kesembang apa, semua kita tahu kan. So, kita kena tahu, why do teachers actually use these labels? Kenapa cikgu guna? One, it's a shortcut. Super easy. Plus, you must understand most Malaysians come from the Malaysian education system or the government school system, right? So when we went to the government school system, what was done? The smarter kids go to the first class, the not so smart kids go to the second class, and we stream it all the way down. So this attitude, whether we like it or not, teachers carry it even when they go to private school, even when they go to international schools, people of this product, they carry it with them because they're not trained to remove this preconceived bias that they already have in their head, that they have grown up with. So if you ask me why teachers label, even though the label is cruel, or even if the label is actually breaks the child down, sebab it makes the teacher's life super easy. Katalah dulu, ni mesti tuan-puan ada pengalaman lah. Kalau kelas belakang, cikgu dah tahu, oh, budak kelas ni memang tak berminat nak belajar, budak kelas ni memang nakal, memang kecoh. So the teacher uses minimal effort. Budak kelas depan pula, dia tanya, oh, ni you tak pergi tuition ke? You tak pergi tuition ke? You mesti tahu kan, cikgu tuition dah ajar kan? So, the label helps guide their behavior, right? And the label simplifies their life. So, they know how much to teach, who. So, if they want to pick somebody for competition, who to train. So, these labels make them easy. Makes their life easy. So, you should not trust what makes their life easy as a guiding light on how you are going to educate your children or guide your children. That's what I'm trying to say here today, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to see what are these impacts, what are the impact of the labels on our children, because it impacts them in a variety of ways, right? So, what we're going to do today, we're going to first look at the impact of labels on our children. And then after that, we're going to look at how can we reframe these labels. So if some of you watching are parents, please share this with your teachers, whoever who's teaching your child. And if your teachers listening to this, please, that section will be really useful. The second section we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to reframe labels or how to use labels better. Because like it or not, most of us will use labels, but how to use it better. Are all labels bad? No, yeah, not all labels are bad. Some labels are amazingly good. Like we use it all the time. It boosts the child's confidence. It's not saying you are smart or things like that. There are ways to give these labels, which I will share later, which really will make the child work a lot harder than you ever imagine in your life, right? These labels are there. So in that section later, we're going to talk about reframing labels. And then after that, we're going to talk about the importance of parental support and advocacy. Because even if teachers are not doing their job properly at school, what can you do as parents at home? Because we understand, not everybody will be enrolling here at Pass Excel, because teachers at Pass Excel are psychologically, we train them on all these things. So these are to help parents who might not be enrolling here. What can you do when your children are enrolled and elsewhere and you're facing this problem, right? So let's recap. These are the three things that we're going to learn, right? We're going to learn about the impact on our children. So when we look at the impact on our children, we're going to break down the impact and what actually the impacts are: mental health, social relationships, academic performance, teachers' expectation, and the long-term impact on the child. This is a very serious topic. So we're going to break that down. And then we're going to look at all the other two sections that I mentioned. Now, why are we doing this episode? Why are we even talking about this? Our mission with today's episode is threefold, right? First is we want to educate parents on how to label a child for success. You can, like I told you just now, right? Labels are not all bad. Number two, we want to explore the fine line between helpful categorization and harmful stereotyping. Okay, harmful stereotyping ni kita tahulah kan. Alah, dia budak kampung, tak pandai ke. I had one teacher once tell me, Yuvan, you don't have to really work very hard on these kids lah. They're from Chinese school, their parents all have business. They're not really interested in studying. They're not really interested in getting A's for their maths. That's when I took over, I remember, when I asked, okay, how many of you have gotten A's? Tak ada tangan naik atas. How many of you gotten B's? Tak ada tangan naik atas. How many of you gotten C's? Lepas tu ada seorang dua lah angkat kat belakang. Most of the class failed, right? So the same class, 3 months later, I remember 96.7% A. So stereotyping is super harmful. When we say kids are not interested in learning because their parents have businesses and they're just going to work in their small businesses, that is a harmful stereotype, right? Then next, our mission with today's episode is to understand that the power of label can either build or break a child. That understanding, we want to make sure parents and teachers get it today, right? So for teachers who are listening, this is also for you, not just for the parents, right? For teachers who are listening, I understand that your desire is actually to nurture, guide, and inspire the next generation, right? I know how management is in most schools, how restrictive and what is the heavy load that you have to carry as teachers, with all the paperwork. Maybe vision yang you start tu dah tak ada lah, right? Maybe tak ada. Tapi, yet, in a world that labels can actually dictate the course of someone's life, a child's education, we really must ask ourselves as teachers and also as parents, are we fostering resilience or are we reinforcing barriers to the child? When we tell the child, right, oh, you ni lemah lah. Ataupun kita cakap, oh, I think that was a good try. Nak try lagi tak? Jom kita try lagi sekali. Beza tak? Jauh beza. So which one is building resilience? Which one is reinforcing barriers for that child? So tu kena tepuk dada, tanya selera lah. Kena tanya diri sendiri, right? How do we communicate with our children, right? Now, so with that question, I hope you keep your ears and hearts open for today's discussion. We're going to cover quite a bit today, like I mentioned. So without further ado, let's get started, right? Let's get started. So what's the first thing that we're going to look at? We are going to look at impacts of the labels on our children. All right, the first one that we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the impacts on mental health, right? What's the impact on mental health? So, sebelum kita teruskan lah, I want to explain this, nak jelaskan benda ni supaya tak tersilap, tak tersalah faham. Okay, this is very important. So, we think that, okay, if I give a positive punya label, example lah, I cakap, oh, pandainya anak aku ni, bagusnya anak aku ni, then that's really good, right? Or even if we say it as teachers, oh, pandainya anak murid I ni very good lah, you sangat bagus lah, kita cakap macam tu. We think that is good, right? So even positive labels can be very detrimental to the child. Okay, why? Because what we are giving that child is an expectation to live up to. Okay, sabar jangan terus nak kena troll. Jangan kata like, awak ni negative label pun salah, positive label pun salah. Sabar sabar. So, why is this bad? Because it can act as a barrier, So the moment you tell your child, right, oh, you're very smart lah, abang, you so smart lah, adik, that you use this statement, right? What happens when they face challenges? What happens when they face a problem that they cannot solve? Then dia macam like, aku pandai sebenarnya. Then why can't I do this? This is too challenging for me. I'm supposed to be smart. When that identity hits reality that they cannot break through, that's where it crushes them. These positive labels can really end up crushing them. If you notice, this usually happens bila tau. It happens when kids change from year 6 to year 7, or like, some kids jump year 7, right? Year 5 to year 8. Maksudnya darjah 6 ke tingkatan 1, darjah 6 ke tingkatan 2. So, very, very common kita dengar parents cakap, oh, dia masa sekolah rendah, bagus tau. Dia pandai matematik semua A. Lepas tu kan, bila datang sekolah menengah je, I tak tahu kenapa. Sebab tiba-tiba dah ada alphabet dalam matematik kan, dia terus tak boleh faham. Okay guys, parents, algebra is not to be blamed for the reason why your children's mathematics is not good. What has happened is they have learned either their basics were weak but good enough to be pushed year on year basis. Maksudnya sekolah kita mana ada, oh, you 60 ke, 65 ke, 75 je tahun ni. You still go on to the next year, correct? You keep going on. So all these deficiencies eventually build up, and when they are introduced a harder concept, coupled with this thought that you have given them, the identity that you have given them, they're super intelligent, it comes all crashing down. Okay, so I hope that explains why you need to use positive labels correctly, and what are those positive labels. Kita akan tengok tu dalam section seterusnya. Section sekarang kita nak fokus on impact. So bila kita nak fokus on impact ni, kena faham benda-benda macam ni dululah. Okay, so apa impact dia sebenarnya sebelum kita pergi to the specific mental health, social impact and all that? Let's look at how these labels happen. So it is very important for you to realize, I'll repeat this many times throughout today's episode, the labels work more on you than you work on them. Okay, what does that mean? Bila kita dah label, remember we did this exercise in the beginning of the class, no, in the beginning of today's episode, where we already say, oh, this person is stupid, for example, right? So kata kita label student ni, oh, this person is a neat freak, or this person is very hardworking. Is it true that the person is hardworking in every single area of their life? No, right? You would have seen, like, especially kalau mak-mak yang tengah dengar ni lah, dia tahu husband dia, oh, dekat tempat kerja, my God, star employee of the month. So, bos suka gila nak mampus. Dah balik rumah, tuala pun tak angkat ni. Tuala still on the floor. So, it's not consistent. So, what I'm saying is, when you label them something, you are reinforcing this behavior, but it is very hard for somebody to break that label. So, if you have labeled them stupid, then they think it is across all the board. So imagine when the boss says you are hardworking, is this true? Is this label true across all areas? As an adult, you know lah, it's not true because dekat rumah you tak hardworking pun. But a child doesn't know that. So the label works on them very powerfully. Okay, so this is something that you need to remember, right? Now, so what happens is, because they don't know this, and plus, remember, they are children receiving this label from a person who they believe as a position of love and authority. You receive something from your boss, highly likely, I don't think that you put your boss as a position of love or authority lah, kan? So what happens is, it helps shape their self-image, how they behave towards other people, and restricts their potential, because they stop taking risks that they're supposed to take, they stop joining competitions they're supposed to join, and whatever not. Now, let's move on and look at how it actually impacts the child's mental health first. Now, first, it creates stress and anxiety. Now, why does it create stress and anxiety? So imagine if you're labeled smart. Now, you have an expectation on you that you have to always perform. You have to be an A-star student regardless. And this is a heavy burden to carry, because that means you now no longer have the opportunity, I repeat, the opportunity to make mistakes and learn. You are expected, because you're a genius, you belajar semua benda kan. First time, cekap, perfect. You belajar je terus faham. Padahal, it cannot be, right? Like after maybe year 3, certain things are difficult. Your child needs a lot more explanation, and sometimes they need to practice it a few times till they get it. They need to read a lot more books, or do different practice questions till they get it, right? But when you label that child genius, they don't have that opportunity anymore. That's number one. Number two, if you have labeled a child lazy, stupid, or whatever it is, slow learner, favorite cikgu suka guna ni, slow learner. So if the child has a lot of intrinsic motivation, or memang dia jenis kita kata kental, memang dia jenis need to prove themselves, they will fight against the label. They will try to find a way to prove that the teacher is strong. Ni jenis rebellious sikit lah kan. But a vast majority will accept that label. They'll be like, it's okay, you say, they'll just say, okay, then I'll try only this level. I won't try more. So this causes anxiety to the kid. When it's harder, they know, oh, I definitely cannot do this. My teacher already said I'm not very smart. Okay, so that's how it causes stress and anxiety. Next, it causes low self-esteem. So when they're carrying this label, right, that, oh, I'm not so smart, I am actually quite a slow learner, it really does impact their self-image. If you don't trust me, right, I had a student that in their previous school was called stupid. The teachers just said, oh, he's dumb. The teacher actually in class said that, oh, you're very dumb, I don't think so you can do this subject. How does this impact this boy's self-image? When you see him in school, because we had the good fortune of interviewing one of his ex-teachers here for past exam. So the teacher applied and we interviewed. So the teacher actually saw his testimonial and then applied. So when we asked the teacher the regular questions, then she started speaking about this student. Then she said, oh, this boy, he doesn't even tuck in his shirt in class. Like when he's walking around school, his shirt is out, his hair is messy, he doesn't come to class, you see him loitering around everywhere. And then I'm like, wow, it seems like you're describing his evil twin, because here in class, he's like, before time, he's already in class, homework's all finished, asking a lot of questions on how to learn better, extending the class hours because he has so many questions. It changes now, because here when the first few classes we had with him, I thought, wow, you're quite smart. Like I said, like you asked really good questions. Have any of your teachers said that you're smart before? He said, no. But you really do have good questions. I like the way you think. So we label on the things that we want to see more. So we say, I really like the way you analyze this question. I really like the fact that you wrote so much for this question. The boy turned over. So we never had this issue with him here. So that's why I said that labeling can really bring on low self-esteem on students. Now, we've covered impact on mental health. Let's look at social relationships. This is super important, especially if you have tweens or teens, yeah. Okay, let's start with peer interaction. If in class, your teacher already labeled you, oh, dia ni memang tukang karut dalam kelas, atau he's the class clown, or he's the person who doesn't finish the homework, or he's the kind of person who is super lazy, it's not someone you should associate with. What it does is it makes the students' choice of friends dwindle and left with only a certain kind of friends. So what happens is they are popular just based on that label, or they're popular because this teacher hates them, right? So it leads to a feeling of social isolation. We've had numerous cases where because the teachers label them a certain way, so the common one is we've heard from government school is teacher label them, oh, dia ni macam orang putih, dia ni orang kayangan, dia ni orang atasan, label macam itulah because the kid can't speak Malay really well. I mean, she's trying. It's not like dia saja nak mengada. She is trying because she's not been exposed to the language, right? So, bila dia kena label orang kayangan, orang tak nak kawan lah dengan dia. So, it leads to isolation, right? So, the peer interaction is also affected. The next one, unfortunately, labels can actually lead to bullying, right? So, we've seen issues where teachers have said, oh, awak ni suka menangis, sikit-sikit menangis. I've heard from parents that the teacher said, macam bapuk lah awak ni. So what happens to those kids? Other kids pick on them, right? So they are ostracized, they are teased, and then to the level that becomes their identity. So this is very dangerous, right? Now, after impact on social relationships, the next one is impact on academic performance. How does labels affect a child's academic performance? This is super important. When we tell our children, right, oh, you are smart, we've already locked them in, because what we're doing is we're giving them a fixed mindset. So even when I'm talking to my own child, I don't say you are smart. I always tell them, wow. I always tell him, wow, you're a learner. I'm amazed at how fast you learn this. You're learning really well. And when it is hard and he feels like giving up, I said, it's okay. You can take a break. You can keep trying because you're a learner. So having this growth mindset is very important, because when they have a fixed mindset, whether they're stupid, smart, or they're just not good at math, or they're really not good at languages, this is very, very dangerous labels to have. Now, another thing I can tell you, I had this one student, right? In the previous school, again, the label was slow learner. So the mom said that, oh, memang, he's very slow. He's very slow. He cannot learn. He doesn't like learning anyway. He just wants to be a basketball player. So when we did our discovery session, because in the discovery session, there'll be a part where there's an interview with the teacher. So sometimes what we do is we test their ability to think, to analyze and everything. And sometimes we teach them something and then test, right? So when we were teaching this boy, first, it seems like the mom is right, that he is a bit slow, like all the previous teachers are right. So, but I was a bit curious because the boy can actually talk quite well. So what we did was we showed him something on an image. We showed him a pyramid like a food chart pyramid, So something new, we actually showed our own PCAP framework. So he's seeing it for the first time. We showed him the PCAP framework. I took it down within like maybe 2 to 3 seconds. Took it down. I said, can you repeat what you just saw? Can you tell me what you learned from that slide? He can repeat it with 95% accuracy. So that means he's not a slow learner. It's just that the teachers didn't identify what is his learning style. Then eventually we found out he's actually dyslexic. Reading makes it very difficult for him to learn. So he needs a visual way to learn. All this we discovered, right? And after that, his results skyrocketed. So having these labels, imagine if I also had the same label on this boy. Oh, he's a slow learner. So what would have been my approach, right? It would have been very different, correct or not? So this is what we want. We don't want to give labels that will enforce a fixed mindset. Then when we do these things, when we give this kind of labels to children, what we do is we reduce their participation in the class, because teacher already label you a certain way, so it reduces their engagement with the material. They start asking lesser questions. They avoid take risk in learning. They don't want to make mistakes because, I've been labeled already, right? So I'm very afraid that teacher will keep repeating these labels on me. So they stay away, right? Now, before we move on to how this actually impacts not just the student, but also the teacher's expectation and behavior, let's take a short break and we will be back to discuss teacher's expectation and behavior.
My teachers thought I was dumb. I definitely did not like studying at all. I would not open a book. I would just be laying in my room all day. But now I am very, very eager to learn. I am actually excited to attend my online classes. In my previous school, it was just the teacher talking to me and I couldn't absorb the information I was getting. But now, my teachers here at Pass Excel, I can form a strong bond with my teachers. We can understand one another. Since both sides are in their own comfort zones, it makes the class much more fun and much more expressive. You won't feel that the teacher is talking and you just sit there and listen. You and the teacher can have conversations about the subject, meaning you can share your knowledge with the teacher and the teacher shares his knowledge with you. Now I am definitely more confident when I'm speaking and I definitely like taking on new challenges. And the teachers treat me really well here. They understand me and like I said, I can form strong bonds with them, which makes classes much more fun. Now I understand much more in the real world, in the economic world, in the business world, where sometimes people speak about things and before I would agree with them, but now it's much more easier for me to debate with them and disagree on many things. I will forever be grateful because now they have made me more confident to speak up. I am not shy anymore. Before I didn't really like to mix around with a lot of people, but now I definitely do. And I would also like to thank them for helping me, be eager to learn many new things.